Hi, Dawn Lewis here, and it's day 6 of this 7-part series featuring the beautiful painted rose stamps and dies by Concord and Ninth, which you can find in Australia at dawnlewis.com.au. So today I'm doing a couple of cool techniques. I'm going to do a kissing technique to start with, and we're going to do colour on colour. And this is a colour clash for sure, a colour clash. Now I'm using the guide, the printed guide that, the acetate that your stamps come on, to line up the rows where I want it to be in the end. I'm putting my first layering stamp. So we're layer stamping today, but not traditional layer stamping. So I'm going to pick up the layer stamp where I want it, and because I've got the whole sheet here, I had to kind of do a bit of a flip, but I'm going to peel off the acetate, and what I'm left with is that big first solid layering stamp exactly where I want it. I'm going to use picked raspberry Distress Oxide ink. Oh, that's a mouthful this morning. And ink it all over, stamp it down and check, has this given me a good all over colour? Maybe I could ink it up again, but instead I'm just going to give it a very light water spritz, and now it's transferred the rest of that colour and blended it in beautifully. I'm going to give it a very thorough clean because now I'm going to use this Darkroom Door background stamp. It's called Abstract Triangles. I love this stamp. I am going to mount it onto a very large acrylic block. I've had this for a lot of years and it holds background stamps nicely. I'm going to ink this up with Candied Apple in the Distress Oxide ink, and we're going to transfer this really cool abstract triangle design from this stamp. The ink is going to be transferred. I'm going to stamp it onto the rose background stamp. So you can see now I've got all that red oxide ink on that stamp, and now I'm transferring it onto the paper. Look at that. So rather than using the traditional layer that comes with this set, you can layer completely different designs onto your rose. I'm laying down my rose line stamp so that I can line up the leaves. I did this the other day. I love this method of lining things up. I'm going to stamp that all over with Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide inks and make sure that it gets a good stamping. And now I'm going to ink some peacock feathers onto my abstract triangles, stamp it onto the stamp, put the stamp onto here. It's transferred the design so nicely. Now it's time to put the line work in. The reason I'm doing this last is when you stamp with oxide inks, they really do cover up the black inking, and so you've got to do it again, and lining it up exactly where you stamped it before, unless you've got two MISTI stamping tools, is really hard. So it's easier to use the line stamp to line up your layers or the acetate sheet that comes with your stamps. I love this really uber color clash, design clash. It's really funky, it's modern, it's cool. I'm going to use another Darkroom Door set. It's called All Occasions, one of my all-time favorite sets. Yes, I've had this so long that it's in a tin. That's how old this set is. I love it. I use it a lot. I'm putting a piece of just white cardstock, a strip, in my mini MISTI, and because I'm using a rubber stamp with Easy Mount, I've removed the foam pad from my stamping tool. I'm going to pick up the stamp and use the lines on the grid of the cover to make sure I've got the wording lined up nice and straight. I'm going to stamp this with Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. It stamps so nicely, especially on rubber stamps. It's just a dream, and I've got Happy Birthday. Now I'm going to put a pennant end on each end of this, so I've trimmed a little straight line down the center, and then I'm going from the corner down to the end of that line, to the bottom of that snip, and it takes a little triangle out. The reason I do it this way is I can be a little bit more sure that I'm going to make it even, a nice even triangle on both sides. A little double-sided tape here is all it needs. I'm going to pop it onto some black cardstock that's a fraction wider, and I'm going to trim those pennants in on that as well. You do want to make sure that you're following those lines quite straight. If you are off even by a little bit, as I was there, it shows, it really shows. So it's worth getting it nice and straight and taking that extra effort. I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of this one. This is a fairly flat card, so I did want to give a little bit of lift to it and a bit of dimension, and there goes the sentiment just perfectly. 3mm double-sided tape all over my A6 background, which I have trimmed down, and here we have this fantastic color clash kissing technique, color on color card. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you're picking up some great tips over on the blog about how to get great value from the stamp sets that you own. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you have a very crafty day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.